Yeah, now for more on Election Campaign 2016 is the Minister for Resources in Northern Australia, Josh Frydenberg. Mr Frydenberg, thanks for your time. A few issues to get around. I want to ask you, first of all, Labor's plan to end the freeze on the Medicare rebate. That's going to be popular with GPs right around the country.
Well, it was the Labor Party, Kieran, that first introduced this freeze in 2013, and as you know, the government, the coalition government, has increased funding substantially for Medicare during its time in office, as well as seen the bulk billing rates increase. In fact, the average spend for Medicare during Labor's 6 years in office was $17 billion. Today it's $23 billion, and it goes to $26 billion in a few years' time. Likewise, with bulk billing rates, the average under the Labor Party when they were in office was 79%. Now it's gone to 85%. So what we've done is increase funding for Medicare, increased bulk billing rates, and at the same time substantially increased funding in a whole range of other areas. For example, we've nearly tripled the amount of drugs that we've put on to the PBS that compared to Labor's time. We've doubled the amount that we're putting into public dental systems in terms of money going to the states and to the territories.
But doctors say they can't absorb it any. But doctors say they can't absorb this anymore, this freeze, that they will have to pass it on to patients at $10, up to $20 is the figure per visit.
Well, the data shows that the bulk billing rates have actually increased under the coalition, and the funding also continues to increase. So that's what we're relying on. At the same time, we're putting money, whether it's public dental systems, whether it's the PBS, whether it's the extra spend on public hospitals, we are increasing health spend.
I have to ask you about Peter Dutton's comments, because he spoke about refugees being illiterate, innumerate, taking Australian jobs, yet languishing on unemployment queues. Are you worried by the language he's used, particularly given your heritage, and you know as well as I do the amount of refugees of Jewish heritage in this country and right around the world who've made such a massive contribution to this country?
Absolutely, Kieran. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we've taken more than 850,000 refugees since the end of the Second World War. You know, 1 in 4 Australians were born overseas. Nearly half of the Australian population has at least one parent who was born overseas. That's what's made us tolerant. That's what's made us cohesive. That's what's made us strong and prosperous. So long may it continue. And in fact, under Peter Dutton, the humanitarian intake does continue to rise from over 13,000 today to 18,000.
So how do you justify his language then?
Well, what he was referring to were some of the challenges, the real challenges that we face with resettlement.
Was he just a bit clunky with the language?
Look, the numbers speak for themselves. 44% of females who come into this country through the refugee intake do come in without an understanding or comprehension of spoken English, and 33% of men come in. 15% of these people who come in through the program have never been to school.
They're coming from war zones, though.
Correct.
And they learn it pretty quick.
And Kieran, and that's a great story. That is, you're absolutely right. It's through no fault of their own, and we in Australia have given them a better life.
So no criticism of Peter Dutton at all on that?
I'm not critical of Peter Dutton. In fact, you know, I'd echo what the Prime Minister has said. He's been, you know, a fantastic immigration.
So they take Australian jobs, the refugees?
Well,
is that
you know, the language that you use, you can argue over that. But in terms of what immigrants do for this country, it's a great net positive.
All right, let's finish off on this gas issue, because the Labor Party wants a national interest test on gas exports before gas is allowed to be exported. You're very critical of that as the Resources Minister. Why is that, given our prices go up when exports are of cheap gas?
Well,
undertaken.
Well, Kieran, just for your listeners' sake, it's not just me who's critical. It's actually been the members of the Labor Party who are critical, and it's the ACCC that have investigated this issue ad nauseum recently that are critical. This policy is an investment killer, and it will not lead to a fall in prices. Now, they're the words of the last 2 energy ministers for the Labor Party, Martin Ferguson and Gary Gray, and the ACCC explicitly ruled out a reservation policy, because what it does is it reduces the incentive for companies to invest in exploration here in Australia. So we're taking a number of steps. We're cutting red tape by $4 billion, including in the offshore petroleum space. We have invested $100 million announced in the budget to Geoscience Australia to assist in the exploration of activities. And I lead the COAG Energy Council, where I work with the state governments, Labor and Liberal, to actually implement some of the ACCC.
But by doing undertaking Labor's approach, you'd avoid some of the controversial environmental questions about the effect on water tables and so on of extracting shale gas.
But we have appropriate mechanisms to deal with all those environmental issues, and you know those challenges will not disappear under Labor's plan. What they're basically saying is let's not let the market rule here. Let's regulate it, and in the process cost thousands of Australian jobs and billions of dollars worth of export income.
Mr. Frydenberg, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Kel.
Let's also have